out every day, man.
Yeah, the forces were strong in some of those days, but I think he handles different people differently, and
you got to.
He was even when Connor was like had a great day or something like that, he was still like yeah, that was all right. Like he was not so.
But you handle players differently. Like I forget what station this was on, but there was one time someone told Jimmy Johnson, he's like, well, you handled a rookie running back like you would Emmitt Smith, and Jimmy Johnson said, no, I did not. Emmitt Smith is Emmitt Smith. I'm going to treat him in a different way. And so, and it's like, yeah, you know what? When you're a great player, you're gonna, as a coach, you can't just let a guy go just because he's. And people say Bill Belichick wouldn't do that, but yes, he would, because guess what? Tom Brady gets his trainer on the plane, and come on, man.
And Tom Brady got his. It's like I don't like that. I don't like my backup.
Yeah, send him to San Francisco. So I mean, people make this insinuation that Mike Tomlin is the only coach that lets people let certain players. I mean, Chuck Noll did that with Joe Green in his early years. And your hope is that eventually they can mature out of those things and be like Joe Green. Eventually, be the leader that you're supposed to be in the locker room. Antonio Brown is just an example of when they don't.
Yeah,
and Antonio Brown, I think he's a great leader in his work ethic. He's a great leader in how he plays the game of football, but he's obviously not a great teammate in how he left him hanging, and he's not a great example of how to deal with disputes in your locker room. That's where he's lacking.
I mean, Tomlin's fault is saying, I'm going to let you do what you want, but I also expect you to be an adult.
Right.
And
Antonio Brown didn't hold up his part of the contract.
Yeah.
Social contract.
I loved the week before the Super Bowl. There was that, the Radio Row, and they have all the ex-players there. Mm-hmm. There was Hines Ward, Rod Woodson, and all these, Jerome Bettis.
Yeah.
And they're all saying these things like, oh, it's all Tomlin's fault. Mm-hmm. Like, each of those guys got preferential treatment.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rod Woodson just had a story this week about how he didn't like a coach, and he told the team, like, if this coach is still here, I'm out of here. You can trade me. Like, what are you doing? Like you say, you're criticizing the current team, and yeah, so that was just ridiculous.
No, I'm with you on that. But everybody every great team, I think, has a player that you can't control. I mean, look at James Harrison. I mean, he was a guy that everyone just thought like, oh, he just puts his head down and he works hard.
Oh my God!
But and like when he was the star, he was fine. But as soon as he wasn't, he wasn't with it. So those players are going to be there. I think Tomlin does a great job managing most players, but I honestly think that the only thing that would have satiated Antonio Brown was winning. And and in fact, even beyond the Browns game, they beat the Saints. I bet you that blow-up doesn't even happen with the Bengals. I think he's tired of losing, That's
the concept of let's just win is what was holding the team together for the past couple of years now.
Yeah.
Remember the national anthem controversy?
Oh, yeah.
That was, the team was falling apart then. And I think they said, let's just forget about that and let's just concentrate on winning and everything takes it. And it did. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't work out this year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and the thing is, in those moments, you see them. The Steelers, and this is one part that I kind of think is a good part of their charm, is how they'll find ways to step away from those moments and make fun of themselves. Like, for example, I remember 2 years ago when Antonio Brown, even in a win, he cut up the field against the Ravens, was wide open. Ben didn't see him, and he flips the Gatorade cooler. And you see, and everyone's like, "Oh man, there's problems." And there's this huge thing, and this huge storm came off the week. But I think it was that Tuesday or Wednesday. Tony Brown's sitting in his locker, and Vince Williams is like filming himself on his phone, and he brings up a Gatorade cooler, and he's like, "Yo, man," he said he wasn't ready last time. He wants his rematch, and Tony Brown's like, "Get that out my face." But it's like those type of moments, they know how to make. They knew how to get through that, and winning can get the guys like Antonio Brown that may not get that type of play. But you have players like Vince Williams, like Cam Hayward, like David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, and those type of players that can say, you know what, we need to get together because we still got to focus on the win. and focus on the next game.
That's the other thing. That's the big debate is there a culture problem? Is there a circus? Or is it just one or two players?
It's really just one. I mean, even Le'Veon Bell, he just said, "I want more money."
Right.
That's not
right.
That's not. I don't care about practice. That's not. I don't, because when Le'Veon Bell was on the field, he was still the best damn player on the field. Pardon my language. But the issue, and even with the whole season, because people are saying like, "Oh, the Antonio Brown wrecked the season." No, he didn't. He was the best player on the field pretty much all season. In fact, in all my grades, I did the War Room column for DK Pittsburgh Sports, where I graded every single player, and and every week and gave them this ratings, and now I'm totaling everything. And my totalings, Antonio Brown gets the highest points because he was always showing up every game. Even when he had little yards, he would block really well. He would block 50 yards downfield, and you'd still see him fighting. His problems didn't affect the season. His problems have impacted the offseason and the look into what the Steelers need to focus on. Right. Exactly. And now it's what they got to focus on as far as what they need to continue to improve. You know what I'm saying? Like if you and I had this conversation back in November and we were thinking, hey, just looking ahead, what do the Steelers need to draft? Well, a number 2 quarterback, a number 1 inside linebacker,
right,
and just and maybe defensive line. Now it's maybe they need to get a wide receiver, maybe they need to get a running back, maybe they get that.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's all that's been talked about the Steelers is Antonio Brown, and there's so many actual issues. So we'll see. But hey, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man.
This was awesome.
Yeah, I love the show, man. I'm glad to finally be on it.
Thank you so much, Christopher Carter. Hey, do you ever? I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Do you ever? Does anybody ever confuse you with the wide receiver?
Oh man, dude, I have his jersey at home. Listen, so my dad actually took me, and he always I don't remember this, but he always tells me the stories. He took me to the Eagles training camp when he was first with the Eagles, and he said that he remembers seeing Chris Carter getting yelled at by some bum in the stands, and he remembers Chris Carter saying he's like, "Hey man, sign-up sheets are right over there if you want to try out." And he immediately was like, I'm gonna tell my son all about this guy. And then when I became football watching, he was with the Vikings, and I was like, that's me. And then I started playing football. I was like, okay, I'm not fast, so that's out.
Maybe I won't be a wide receiver.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a Hall of Fame wide receiver. I wrote the X-Files. I mean, I got a lot of things on my resume, man. Come at me.
See, that could be useful sometimes.
Exactly, and I tell people, I'm like, man, you never knew who I could be today. And it also helps that there's a lot of Chris Carters in the phone book, so if someone was like trying to find me for bad reasons, it would take him a minute.
Yeah. Oh, that's not me. Actually, he is, of the national people, he usually has the most level-headed takes.
Minus his whole have a fall guy thing that he shouldn't have said when he was giving that speech.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like that's a bad take to get out in public. That's a real thing that he's like, listen, you need a guy with you that's gonna, and I think fall guy was the wrong thing to say, but have a guy that's gonna be like the let's chill out and get out of here, to have a good person around you to remember, because you're young, and people think that this is so easy to do, but when you're 22 years old, 23 years old, or 21 like Juju was when he joined the NFL, and all of a sudden you're a millionaire and you've been broke or lower middle class all your life.
Right.
You don't know how to handle that. Shoot, I wouldn't know how to handle that right now.
Right.
And I think that with that, you want to do the things that you see on TV, which is go to the clubs, be popular, be famous, and flaunt it. And not say that these are good things or excuse this, but it's a reality that a lot of these young guys face. And what Chris Carter was trying to say in that time, not me, the other one, he was trying to say is you need to have a person that's going to get you out of those situations. Now, again, fall guy, you don't need a fall guy. You need a person that's going to help you learn the responsibilities. And that's why I think that, and this is one of the reasons I think that the Penguins are in a great spot, is because they had Mario Lemieux. When Sidney Crosby came to town, where was he living?
Right.
Exactly.
Hey, just live in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Sidney Crosby had his wild days, but he had someone to keep him in check. And I think that's what people need. But I do agree with you. I love his morning show with Nick Wright, as crazy as Nick Wright can get sometimes. But Chris Carter, I've always admired his style of play. I've always admired his voice. And he is one of the national presences that doesn't assume that certain tight ends still play for different teams like Stephen A. Smith does.
Oh man, he had another one about, I think, quarterback.
Oh, he said Haskins can't. He's like, oh, he's a speed. He can run, but can he throw? I'm like, dude,
in this day and age, you can't get away with stuff like that.
Oh no,
that became an instant viral thing. So
yeah.
Oh man, but hey, thank you so much.
Thank
this
you,
was
man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Thanks again to Christopher Carter from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Talk to you later. Another episode is in the bag.